Welcome to Order in Chaos, episode 10. Today we are talking about pricing, packaging, and the perception of value. Now, pricing for every business, they run on pricing, right? Everything is about price. So today we're going to talk about the components of price and how to price your own packages and your offerings such that your clients will treat it as an investment and not an expense, right? So what do you have to say about pricing?
Okay, so I think this is the one thing I personally face a lot of issues with when it comes to pricing, because the most common way that people figure out how to price their product or service, right, is usually to look at competitors, which is not the right way to do it, especially if you are in a service industry, right? For products wise, you can do your research. Most of the products are from the same manufacturer, like somewhere they in China,
Yeah.
right? But for services wise, it's very dependent on your understanding of yourself, because when it comes to services, right, you will meet a lot of overconfident people. Like, meaning that not that they're overconfident, but I think they are in a situation where they focus on extracting the most from the customer for the minimal effort. And that distorts the market, because a lot of the clients that come to me, they're saying like, oh, you charge this, but you produce like X, like this certain level of creatives, right? I think these are what we call spoil market, lah, right? The people who come in to spoil the market. It's not that their creatives are good. We don't talk about subjective aesthetics. We talk about objective, let's say visual hierarchy, usage of fonts, brand consistency. All of this is not in, right? But then they are charging at a price. I mean, you pay peanuts, you get monkeys, lah. Yeah. So a lot of the founders, they only look at price and say like, oh, actually, then creative shouldn't be so expensive. But it's really dependent on yourself, because if you pay, I give a very simple example. If you pay 2,000 and you get work that you cannot even publish, you cannot even use, right? What's the point?
Yeah.
You get what I mean? I'd rather pay 4,000 to get something I can use and that can generate me more income. So at the same time, also your prices filter out, right, whether the person is even a quality client or someone that is just shopping around. I say shopping around for lack of better word. The reason being is that clients who are serious, you realize in our field, right, you realize that the clients that pay more are the ones that are more serious, they are more collaborative, and they are the more grateful for the effort that you put in, because they themselves maybe are business owners who have been through it, they've been through the struggle, they've tried doing it themselves, they've tried every avenue first before coming to you. Those are the people that should be on your retainer list, lah, right? We say they are your best A tier, S tier client, right? But you realize that the people who pay little complain a lot, they want you to edit this and that, scope creep. Yeah, so I think it's less reflective of yourself. So a lot of times, all the creatives out there, right, don't take it very personally, right? It's less reflective of yourself and more reflective of the client. That's my firm belief, right? I mean, me and Ken's experience has always, I mean, this has been quite true, right?
Yeah.
Right? People who pay little, they expect like the world kind of thing.
Because they also are not sure about what they can get from you, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go into like the Kotler's. This is something I learned back in my marketing days, lah. So there are a few ways of pricing that are commonly used. I shall talk about like those that what people who are just starting out should look at, and then also the more advanced ones which require a full tech team, lah. Right? If you don't have a team, you cannot do that, right? The ones that you should start looking at is either firstly, of course, your competitor pricing. But the thing is, your prices of your competitors, you must first identify the competitors, right?
Yes.
You get what I mean? The most way of finding competitors is you just check their revenue. Are you doing the same scale as them, right? If you are, then what are the prices that they are charging? And are you serving the same market? Right? You can tell me that, no lah, like I want to compare myself to the giants, to the best. Let's say in our field, I feel that I'm comparable to Ogilvy, to Havas, to publicists. Like, you can continue dreaming lah. I mean, like, let's be real lah, right? I think the whole point is not to lie to yourself. I think requires a certain level of honesty, right? So that's one thing. Are you serving the same market? Are you of the same relative scale? That's one thing. So that's how you identify competitors. Second thing is, what are the alternatives to your solution? That's one thing that a lot of people don't realize. Let's say if you're running an agency or a business, right? Any business. Let's say if you are doing creative agency like us, right? Then your competitor is not just other creative agencies, but also freelancers. Like a lot of people don't realize this. There's two competitors that are not direct competitors. I mean, they are indirect, lah, right? One is freelancers, one is hiring in-house. So you have to compare yourself. Okay, so assuming that you are doing a creative director level of execution, your what is your client's alternative to hire a creative director in-house, ma? So your work, I mean your prices must be comparable to, I mean must be equal to or cheaper than if they were to hire a creative director in-house. Right? So I think that's one thing that a lot of people fail to realize. So you take a look, think about your own industry. Let's say your food, right? Let's say if you are in the F&B industry, what are your competitors? Of course, you can tell me people in 1 kilometer radius, right? That's why you
That's
do geo targeting, ma,
Immediate
right?
competitors.
Your direct, ma,
Mm.
right? Direct competitors. Who are your indirect? Them grabbing food that by themselves, like ordering through the app, them cooking themselves, right? So you must understand like what are your advantages over your competitors. Not just, I mean, of course, price is one thing, but then we talk about your 7 P's lah, right? I mean 7 P's for service, 4 P's for product. Is I will always say there is always an element of the other 3 P's, no matter which industry, whether you're in product or you're in service, right? So that aside, right? So competitor based pricing is always the easiest to reference, right? The second one, it requires a little bit more effort and also requires a little knowledge about Excel, right? Second one is called cost plus. Cost plus pricing is you have to be able to figure out your own cost first, right? Figure out your own cost and then you add a fixed premium on top of that, a fixed margin for yourself to be 20%, right? This is more for smaller scale or maybe like wife and husband, like partners, small scale, like it's just you have no intention of going beyond like a certain size.
What would you say that size is?
Wow, I would say you're looking at a team of max 5.
Max 5.
Yeah, for cost plus, it makes the most sense if you're max 5 because beyond that, right?
Beyond max 5, then what happens there?
Beyond max 5, you should look at other forms of pricing already, like in terms of value pricing, premium pricing. You have more flexibility. You don't have to just purely go on cost plus. Because if you are beyond, I mean beyond 5, right, you will realize that you will achieve a synergy within your team. Synergy meaning that you will have enough people to optimize the flow, which means that you can focus on other product. I mean, productized service is the same as product, right? So other product offering. That's when it gets messy. You get it, right?
So in a way, it reaches a cap.
It's not like it reaches a cap, but then it makes the most sense for a small team. That's what I personally believe. Because I was sharing with Weekend the other day, right? There's this concept of like compensating different product lines. Because not every product line is or service. Like if you think of your service offering, let's say in F&B, back to F&B example, right? Beverage, wine. I mean like normal beverage, wines, food, desserts. These are all the same food, but then it's different product lines, right?
Yeah.
So you must find the balance of which
They all have different margins.
Yeah, yeah.
Businesses have their
That's
own
why.
margins. Usually drinks have the highest margins.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
F&B businesses typically make the most from selling drinks
Yeah.
rather than food.
So I think that's one thing that to take note where you need to balance like this requires go and calculate and determine. I mean, what we call A/B testing, right? To know whether it could be that if you slightly lower the price of a certain product, right, it will create more revenue for the company, right? It's very counterintuitive, but if you think about it from a very logical standpoint, let's say if you were to a special where you are the best option in lunchtime at a specific area, right? When people come in, they don't just they don't just buy your food because they will just, I'll just get a drink, right? Logically.
Mhm.
And the profit margins that we mentioned, as Cam was saying, is the largest. So what if you decrease the price of your food, but actually you earn so much more from the things? But because all this traffic wouldn't even be coming in if you didn't even have the special, for example.
So you're incentivizing them by lowering the price of, let's say,
Yeah.
the food. But then, do you mark up the drinks or
No, same price.
Okay.
You'll realize that maybe you can even, because pure quantity. You get what I mean?
Because more crowds are attracted to the low price of food.
Yeah.
And therefore,
Yeah.
okay.
Especially if, I mean, if your food has a lot of MSG or salt, Then people will, you get what I mean? They'll get thirsty. Let's say if you're, I give an example that I can think of ramen store. Because of the saltiness of the broth and everything, you just want to,
drink more, like
you just like
get more drinks.
yeah. Or all the what mala tang kind of concept.
Yeah.
Right. So you have to understand the pricing lah, right? Behind your margins, behind your individual products, and also as a collective whole as to how each one affects the other, whether it's disproportionately lesser or disproportionately more. If it's more, then you should definitely lower the price lah, logically speaking, of that particular product lah, right? It's not like for everything, but it's just for that particular product, right? Okay, so that's one method, cost plus, right? But as I mentioned, the cost plus requires you to list out every single. It's more for individuals. Reason being is because you have your fixed bills to pay, ma. So that's when you add up everything, add up 20%. That's how you get derive the actual price that you should be charging. One issue with cost plus is that you need to know your volume. You need to have a good sense of the volume that you're getting. Reason being is that let's say if your costing is 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 a month, right? 20% will be 4,008. Then your fixed cost is 4,008.
Yeah.
Right? But if you don't know your volume, then how do you charge? Are you gonna charge a single product at 4,008? And then you don't get any customers?
Yeah.
Or if you know that okay, I get on an average 4 customers a month, right? Then you should be charging at 1,002 for a particular, let's say, a website, for example, right? So I think that's the way you must know yourself well also to that point, right? Or at least be able to do your projections to some extent. So that's cost plus. The other methods, which is not really relevant for creative fields, but then could be relevant for other business owners out there, right? Could be price skimming. Skimming is what? It means that like it's like Apple lah. So where you charge super high for the new launch, but then you reduce the price for the older products to get your inventory. This is more for actual product. Reason being because you want to clear your inventory, ma. You want to reduce your right? Your product, the turnover lah, right? That's more for products, right? You can scheme, but then eventually people will, with each new iterations of the new product, right? It has to be better. Even if it's not actually quantitatively better, right? It has to be perceptively better. You get what I mean? Like let's say iPhone always does one new camera, don't know what aperture,
Yeah, they always increase like marginally better specs.
like something what lens that can zoom. So if you are to continue offering the same product and you try to scheme, right? Like scheme meaning that you try to come and say, okay, this is the new product, but actually when people have experienced it, right, and it's not actually better or it's even worse, it used to go in the past where the internet was not so advanced, right? People couldn't leave a review saying like exactly, like you're trying to scam, But if now at today's age, right, that doesn't work anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I give an example of a successful local company, right, that has done this price scheming logic very well. OSIM, right? The massage chair, right? So it was because people do not understand the inner mechanics, right? In the past, because they were doing door to door, if I'm not wrong, right, previously, like the initial start, right? But then they also had pivoted because they also know that, they reinvested the profits that they earned into building the OSIM brand,
Yeah.
right? It's not just letting it, I'm just gonna keep selling the same product. No, but they also reinvest into different products as well. The specific one for the feet, the compact massager. That's all I know, like, and neck one, I think. Right, those are the ones that I remember. So the thing is, with price skimming, you have to keep innovating. Right. The fourth way that all of us as consumers will be very familiar with is called dynamic pricing. So dynamic pricing is when certain actions either lead to price increasing or decreasing. So airlines lah, when you go on Agoda, you search airline ticket. But I mentioned, those require a full
team.
a full tech team, like a full-time tech team, and that's not really the people that are looking at our channel today, right? Another type of pricing where it's premium pricing. Premium pricing, right? So that's luxury brands. Very simple, right? But for premium pricing to work, firstly you must have a good financier, right? Because reason being is that you with or without sale, right, you are still able to survive. right? Because let's say luxury brands out there, right? When we talk about luxury brands or luxury branding, right? They are not going after you. You get me? They are not asking you to actively, hey, come buy my product. You know? Like you want, you come, you don't want, you don't buy, right? But they are constantly in your head because you see their boutiques. It's in airports, and you understand. Then you start to question like, why are some of the boutiques open despite you don't see any
Customers or anything.
yeah. This one is simply you must either have the financier or you are doing you're running a different kind of business. Like where your bulk of the money, right, doesn't come from product sales. Your bulk of the money comes from valuation of the number of stores, the transaction data of each store per month, and then getting a valuation from bank so you can take a bigger loan. That's the current model that all the Chinese brands are doing, right? Where they open Chagi multiple stores and then like their valuation is based on the number of stores.
Yeah.
It's not based on the whether this how many stores are loss making, how many stores are profit making, right? So that's one way.
Is that applicable for like people in the creative industry as well? Or?
Not really, because if you realize in the creative industry, right, for people who are very up to date with the news, right, if you realize being a creative industry, right, is less about listing, more about acquisition. In our field, it's always M&A. It's never if you get to even a certain size, right? It's never about going to list myself. You get what I mean? Because for those who understand the industry well, you realize that the scalability is a concern. So for us to scale, we need more people.
Yeah.
Inevitably, right? I mean, maybe 2-3 years down the road, right? AI might change that with the workflow, the creative workflow. But I don't think we are at a point where creativity can be like consistently
Or like the quality of the
yeah
creativity might be maintained as we scale.
yeah I think
it
it's very
usually
hard.
will be like either diluted or affected in some way, right?
Oh, you'll be corporatized, right?
Yeah.
That's one thing. Second thing is okay. So with McDonald's, for example, right? Why did they get to the scale that they reached today? It's not that their food is exceptionally delicious.
They
Right?
are a real
It's
estate
that-
company, right?
yeah lah,
Food isn't there.
yeah. But so like how did they get more and more franchises? Because and how did they get the valuation that they got? Right? It's from consistency. It's not from quality. Right? The McDonald's that you eat in Singapore will taste the same as the McDonald's you eat in Thailand, but actually not you won't be very far. Right? With a certain level of
Consistency.
yeah. So certain percentage of difference. It's just consistency that allows them to be listed at this valuation. But creative field there, what's the metric of consistency? Like what determines that this is what are criteria to hit? Let's say in the fries, right? Let's say McDonald's fries. I mean, I like to eat the fries, so golden brown, crisp, softness of potato, right? You are able to control the variables because let's say okay, growing the russet Burbank, right? The potato that McDonald's use, certain X level of water content. Those are factors, but in the creative field, there's no way to consistently apply the same principle.
It's too subjective already. And
Yeah.
Every client has their own preferences and stuff.
So that aside, right? There's one more which is penetration pricing, which is what the world is flooded with now. But the problem with penetration pricing, there is tendency to reduce the quality. Simple as that.
It's just basically just going by price, right? It's going for the lowest price.
Yeah. So going for the lowest price, getting the client, and then the thing is with penetration pricing, right? Highly likely you cannot retain the client.
Yeah, because the client is the one who goes for the lowest number.
Correct.
So it could be yours one day, but another day it could be someone else's.
Correct. Okay, yeah, I think that's all. I mean, there are other strategies, but I don't think it's that relevant, right? So these are the few that we want to look at, especially okay. So to re-emphasize for people who are just starting out, or for people who are on a smaller scale, focus on cost plus and competitor base.
Don't go for penetrative, right? Because
You're destroying your own market lah.
Yeah.
Because okay, so I give you an example. For every one of you that is willing to charge lesser and struggle, right? There's another person from a less developed country willing to charge even lesser than you. That's one thing you need to take note. Even let's say currently we are in Thailand, right? So even Thailand, right? Thailand is the Bangkok is the creative capital of Asia, of Asia, right? Of Asia, at least of Asia. So, but then there are many other countries less developed than Thailand on the Human Development Index, right? We use a very objective measure, and their cost of living is much lower. So how are you gonna fight with these people?
Yeah, it's tough.
Because if your only differentiation, as what we always mention, right? If your USP, your only differentiation is price, right? You don't have a USP at all, right? Is the truth? It's just the hard truth.
So companies should start by going like value-based pricing or like cost-plus pricing.
It depends on your own principles, lah.
And then can they evolve? Should they stick? It doesn't have to stick to
It doesn't have
one
to stick.
model all the way, right?
Yeah.
As they evolve, as they grow and scale, then they can adopt different pricing models.
Yeah, and back to again, it's also there are certain factors such as your number of product lines. You might develop more product lines in the future. Let's say for in a creative field, right? If you want to do a custom solution for every single client, right? There's only so much you can grow. Like people who have walked down this path, they will know that you'll feel stuck. You will have reached a bottleneck, right? What you need to do, create productized services, right? It can be templates, can be courses, can be webinars. So for those, it's higher profit margin. Why? Because it's a do it
Create
once.
one time and then it just runs on its own.
Yeah. So for those products, maybe it doesn't make sense to go for value based. You should be going maybe for penetration. For reason being is because once they get there is three categories of collaboration, right? One is do it yourself, right? DIY, done with you.
Done with you.
Yeah, DWY and of course DFY,
Do for you.
right? So a full agency is DFY, right? But what about exploring your DIY and DWY option? DWY is your consultancy. You are just charging for consultancy per hour. So that zero cost, right? There is no, I won't say zero cost, but more of like the only cost is your own time.
Yeah.
Compared to if you were to create a product, you need to hire people or you need to pay your suppliers, whatever, right? So that's one. The do it yourself. Then what we mentioned also could be courses or could be courses, templates. That's not do it yourself. Yeah, lah. So I think that there's two ways to do. There are multiple ways, not just two ways. The two ways that are listed are just two of the multiple ways that business owners go about varying their pricing strategy. So I think
So thanks for watching episode
Thanks
10.
for watching.
Remember to like, share, and subscribe.
累吗？完了。
See you next time.